Therapy Jeff has harmed my clients. I'm a licensed therapist and I have been practicing for 22 years, and I have never personally dealt with something like this before. As therapists, we have extra responsibilities. As licensed professionals moving through the world, we have ethical responsibilities to be professional and to not trigger people inappropriately. We are not allowed to discuss our own personal sexual preferences for the world to see. That is crossing a line. If I were to do that, it would be wildly inappropriate. I have never once considered doing something like that. What Jeff did not consider was that there would be thousands of people that did not consent to seeing that and experiencing that from someone who touts himself as a licensed therapist, as an authority figure, as an expert in our field. He did not consider the deadliest mass shooting in over 2 years just happened in Shreveport, Louisiana today, where 8 children between the ages of 11 and 14 were killed and several more shot. This was a domestic case, so there is no ongoing threat to the public. But a man visited 2 locations and killed all of these kids just like that. And it is heartbreaking, it is devastating, and it is a regular occurrence in the US. We have no right to ever be surprised when something like this happens. And we are not one step closer to having shootings like this eradicated. We do not have protections in place to prevent things like this from happening. Incredibly tragic. Therapy Jeff has harmed. Perhaps some of you don't know, but I'm a licensed therapist and I have been practicing in good standing for over 20 years. I hold multiple state licenses. And I am mutuals with someone on this app who has a very large following. In fact, maybe one of the largest followings of any therapist on this app. And this person is actively getting canceled on Threads for several concerning posts. Now, I don't want to name names. You will be able to figure this out. But I am very curious what you think. I am curious whether you follow this creator. I am curious whether you have found the recent postings or the videos over time problematic, because admittedly, there was a lot of content that I resonated with, appreciated a male perspective on, and having a large following like he has, I was grateful that he was putting out a lot of, in my mind, helpful content. But what I have seen over the past few days has been nothing short of alarming. And I do understand that.
You know, I have some serious questions. The SPLC wants America to believe it's the gold standard for identifying hate and extremism. Really? Because a lot of Americans look at some of their designations and wonder whether they're tracking actual threats or simply labeling people they disagree with politically. You won't see any anti-Israel, pro-Palestine groups or radical Islamic terrorist groups or the trans with gun groups. But a person with conservative beliefs that doesn't think you should parade around and get special attention because you got perverse sexual desires ends up on the list. How is it that organizations with mainstream conservative viewpoints end up under scrutiny while critics argue that other forms of extremism don't receive the same attention? How did organizations like Turning Point USA become controversial targets of criticism, while Americans are left wondering whether the standards are being applied consistently across the board? And now on top of all that, The SPLC is facing serious legal scrutiny and allegations that have raised even more questions about its credibility. The allegations are disputed and they will have to be resolved through the legal process. But here's the part that gets me. The organization that built its reputation judging everyone else now expects nobody to question them. Sorry, that's not how it works. If you're going to label people, organizations, and movements as dangerous, then your standards better be consistent, transparent, and applied equally. Americans have every right to ask whether that's happening. And when people start asking those questions, the SPLC doesn't get a free pass just because it appointed itself the referee.
Today, June 11th, is the birthday of Gloria Janice Parsons. She died in the 2012 Seattle mass shooting at Cafe Racer. A wonderful wife, mom, and friend, Gloria was full of optimism and life. She was a giver, always reaching out to friends and family, loving, caring, volunteering. She loved to travel the world and cherished her memories of being in Germany when the Berlin Wall came down. Gloria was a trailblazer as an electrician and quickly became a well-respected lighting designer and leader in the Illuminating Engineers Society. One of her biggest projects was working on the relighting of the Statue of Liberty, a job which brought her immense joy and pride. Gloria was taken from her husband of 19 years and their 2 daughters. The shooter's father admitted that his son suffered from mental illness for years. His brother said, "We could see this coming." Yet the killer possessed 6 firearms and a concealed carry permit. He was carrying 2 .45s in his pocket on the day of his attack. He killed 4 and injured 1 inside the cafe, exited, and killed Gloria on the street before driving off in her SUV. Eventually, as police were closing in, he shot himself.